8 states, 8 days, thousands of miles, and a whole new perspective on the reality of what's happening across the southern United States. This wasn't a road trip, this was a deep dive into America's shifting identity. From booming cities to struggling towns, here are my 8 biggest takeaways. Let's jump right in. Hey guys, this is Alvin Taveras, and I just spent 8 days in 8 different cities. I came with my family and I went to explore emerging markets for build to rent opportunities. And here are my biggest 8 takeaways from my trip. The first major takeaway is that the South isn't as southern as it once was. Now, I traveled to places like Texas, like Tennessee, North and South Carolina multiple times. And over the years, because of the transplants and just people moving around, it kind of lost some of its southern feel. It feels more like a multicultural melting pot than it did in the past. Before, there was a little bit more of a southern twang, and there was a preference for southern music, like country had a bigger significance back then, and even southern cuisine. So little touches like iced tea are now replaced with just Pepsi products. And what you will find is a lot of these major southern cities now have a lot more New Yorkers, New Jerseyans, Californians, people from all over the place. And they've kind of left their own neutral footprint in it. So it feels more like the rest of America than the true Deep South. And you can see this throughout. You see the national franchise food chain restaurants all over the place. So you'll have your Hardee's all over the place. You'll have your Del Tacos, you'll have your McDonald's, your Wendy's. And all of these national retail chains are kind of replacing the mom and pop stores that once used to dominate. So as an investor, this can lead to some benefits as you can look at the country as more homogeneously, and we can look at the country being more black and white. But there is kind of a lack of cultural significance. Now, some of this cultural significance is being changed or transformed, and those are pretty evident in a city like Austin, where they have an emerging new identity emerging from that market. But in a lot of other markets, it kind of just holding on to some of the relics. And at the same time, it's kind of moving beyond what made it great in the first place. All right. The second key point is New Orleans is back. Now, I have to mention that I've never been to New Orleans, so I have no reference point. A lot of what I know is really post Hurricane Katrina, after a massive hurricane wiped out a lot of civilization there and created a lot of damage to that city. When I was there was no signs of hurricanes. There's actually buildings being reconstructed. I thought that their infrastructure was phenomenal. They had actually really good highway system. And for the local roads, I'm actually happy that there's not easily available parking. We should have more great walkable cities in America. And when you have a city as historical as New Orleans, you shouldn't fill it up with parking lots and parking garages. It should be difficult for people to drive into. And that's some of the charm that was well preserved. Listen, I was driving down Bourbon Street with the kids. People were having a great time. I told my son before I went there, hey, it's a drunken city. You're going to see some drunkenness. We don't condone this. But as an adult, people were definitely having a good time. And me and my wife have to plan a second trip without the kids so we can join in. Listen, there's a lot of infrastructure projects taking place modernizing that city, but that loud cultural kind of like excitement was absolutely present. It was absolutely there. New Orleans is back on the map. That's kind of a theme with a lot of these cities. We kind of hold on to a certain imagery we have of a city. And the reality could be far different than that image that we have. And that's absolutely the case with New Orleans. New Orleans is back. You should go. Now, for investors, New Orleans is a no-go. Don't invest there. Not for most of us. It's not a good place to invest in. But it does tell us a lot about what we think about certain areas and where that idea comes from. I hear the feedback from Florida all the time about the hurricane risk, and you can show them an insurance rate that's well below what they currently would pay anywhere else. People have thoughts of, oh, well, property taxes are going up. You can show them the actual property taxes, and people still kind of hold on to these ideas. And so one of the trend line, one of the things I learned about traveling to a lot of these cities is use truth, see the reality. So a lot of these cities are doing way better than you think they are. And in particular, New Orleans. All right, so now we're going to dive into number 3, and this one is a shocker. This is my best or overperforming city out of all the ones that I've seen. And again, we did 8 states, but we also did 11 different cities in that time period. My number 1 underrated city by far, by a mile, is Huntsville, Alabama. Now, Huntsville, Alabama wasn't even on my radar. I know Birmingham, I know Montgomery, I know Mobile, Alabama. I knew nothing about Huntsville. And quite frankly, a lot of times we think of Alabama and Mississippi as the same. And I'll tell you right now, Alabama's a step ahead of Mississippi. Sorry, Mississippi. Sorry, Louisiana. You should think of Alabama more like you think of a Tennessee. They're definitely more in that category. They're more in that mid Atlantic region feeling, especially when you go a little bit further north. And so Huntsville, out of all the city I just mentioned, is the furthest north. And it's beautiful. It's gorgeous, has good mild climate, and it's flat ground. And there's a lot of economic development taking place there, especially with regards to space and military. My son really likes space, so we had a chance to go to the NASA center that's there. We had a chance to see a lot of the rocket ships. But then what we also saw was a line of companies that are also there. So you have Astro Martin, you have Boeing, you have a lot of these big aerospace companies that are also based out of there and do a lot of their researching, and they hire a lot of high paying people there. So Huntsville, Alabama was great because it had a vibrant downtown area. It was a very livable area, but it also has a lot of massive employers there. So in exploring Huntsville, Alabama, it's a market that I have to put on the map. I got to go find inventory there. I was blown away. I'm actually working with some projects now to go ahead and start investing on some ground up construction in that area. It's just an absolute amazing market. All right. So we talked about the city that blew me away on the positive. Now we're going to talk about the state that's still disappointing me. Mississippi, what's going on? All of your neighbors are doing well. There should be better things happening. And it's as simple as when you just drive from one state into Mississippi, immediately the roads feel brown, they feel broken, the highway feels underinvested. You start seeing all these advertising for car accidents and all of this stuff. You start seeing these bootleg and rundown casinos. It's just overall just not a pleasant drive to spend time there. And so we actually went through Mississippi twice. Both of them were like mid, as the kids would say it, and it just wasn't an exciting time. We actually like spent as little time as possible in Mississippi because there were so many more attractive, more pleasant places to go to. So I'm still wildly disappointed in Mississippi. Now, I could be wrong. If there's some good places in Mississippi, leave it down in the comment section. I want to research these better areas of Mississippi, but everything I saw on this trip was not inspiring at all. So that was the underperforming state. And now I'm going to talk about something you guys probably already know if you know anything about me. The best state out of all the states that I went to. And again, that was Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi. I went to Arkansas, and I forgot the other one. I'm missing one. Yeah, Florida. So Florida actually ranks as my best overall state. And I'm biased. I know I'm from Florida. I actually went on a mission to go learn more about other states. But I gotta tell you, Florida does everything better. Highways are better in Florida. The neighborhoods are better. Things are just more organized. There's a calming element of it. I like humidity. I like just having one season year round. So I think the weather's also better, but also all the beaches, all the activities. So even when you're driving into the state of Florida, the Welcome Center is 20 times better than any other place. They were giving out orange juice samples. There was parks and things you can learn about. It was just the best Welcome Center we've seen. And there were a couple that were there. But again, Florida had the best Welcome Center, has the best highways. As you're driving down, you can see the different state parks you can do. It's just the most exciting place you can be in. And when you look at all the data, population growth is also the strongest. You also can get lower insurance rate. You have to focus more in the northern part of the state, but you can absolutely get lower insurance costs. And the prices are comparable to a lot of other states. Sure, you might get a little bit more of a deal, but again, all the other economic data is skewing towards Florida being better. So I'm biased. I love Florida. I live here. It's where I raised my family. But after spending all my time in all these other states, Florida wins. Florida is just the best state. And not to say that other states don't have advantages. There's plenty of reasons to invest in other markets. It's the reason why I did this road trip, to find the best opportunities throughout the country. There's going to be a lot of good news I'm going to be sharing over the next couple of weeks of some of the new markets we're entering into. I can't wait for you guys to learn what those are. But at the end of the day, my bias was true and Florida still wins. All right, so now we're going to go into number 6. And this is one of my top takeaways, is when you enter a lot of these cities, and like Birmingham, Montgomery, even parts of Atlanta, parts of Austin, so some of these downtown areas just have way too much parking. And for someone visiting an area, and you're visiting the downtown area, and you just see a hospital and you just see a parking. And a lot of these are surface level parking, which I think is the worst use of space in an urban core in a walkable area. It makes absolute no sense to have a great walkable area and it's just have parking lots around. It's super easy to have storefronts with multi-level parking garages and have apartments at the top. We need to start redesigning our cities. Our cities should be great walkable places that you want to spend time in. A lot of the degradation from our downtown areas, I think, comes from poor planning. We basically forced people out of these areas. So people are now burdened without walking in safe areas. And again, a storefront is way nicer than a parking lot. We have to figure out how to jumpstart this operation to get much more development in downtown areas. And it's better for the citizens. Actually can be cheaper not to own a car. But these types of urban design planning is something we should start doing as a nation. And we should start pushing in this direction. We just have way too many parking lots in urban cores and it doesn't make sense. So that's one of my takeaways from just a city planning perspective. Just too much. We have to develop it. And I think we should start penalizing developers or whoever owns the land for sitting on these vacant lots. They should be penalized because they're taking away from the heart and soul of the city as opposed to giving back. And we should look at city design as far as how do we give back to the community? How do we add more energy? How do we add more employment? How do we add more life? How do we add more purpose? And that should be the goal of the developer, not to just sit on a parking lot. All right, number 7. Texas highways are absolutely insane. So did a lot of highway driving, drove up and down across the southern United States. And when you get to Texas, you start seeing behemoths. Now, I don't know the actual name of these behemoth structures, but I call them spaghetti highways. It looks like you just threw a bunch of spaghettis and they just overlap on top of each other. It's just all of these highways just overlapping. And it's not just one major one. That's one of the things that you think about when you see some of these cities is you think of an image in your head. So Houston, you might think of these 18 lane highways. And it's no, it's not just 18 lane highways. There's multiple that are like that. It's all of Houston is all this super wide highways that, by the way, still have traffic. You go to Dallas and you see all these spaghetti highways. It's not just one spaghetti highway. It's every city has their own spaghetti highway and you are just hitting them over and over again. Texas is also planning for development. There was construction all over the place. New bridges, road expansions, more spaghetti highways. It was just developing all over the place. So Texas is absolutely prepared for development, or at least are trying to prepare for them. It was an absolute chaos. And one of the problems is that they're trying to avoid red lights or stopping. So if you go on a spaghetti highway and you're going southwest, you can just turn up and go all the way around and you're going through that whole loop without stopping or getting off the highway, which I think is a very smart design structure. The big problem is that you have to make several decisions in a row. So if you're taking an exit, you might have to take another exit immediately afterwards and then take another exit. So you have to do 3 exit changes in a row. And it's very common to miss one of the exits or just take the wrong one. And you can then go 10 miles in the wrong direction before you can finally U-turn and come back this way. So if you don't know exactly where you're going, you can easily go the wrong direction and not even realize it. But Texas is planning for growth, and that's good for an investor. You want a city, a state, a region to be planning for more growth because they're going to be more accommodating to more people. When there's a lot of development in an area that the city infrastructure can't keep up with it, now you're looking at having a choke point. And again, these are your future residents, these are your future buyers that now are dealing with this choke point, and you'd rather not give them that experience. Instead, a city that is planning for this development is good because that's more accommodating for your clients. All right, so my 8th biggest takeaway from this road trip, and it should be reverse order because it's actually my biggest takeaway, is that our time is precious. And so the time that we have is not infinite. It is finite. It means we have a certain number of time and we never know where it ends. We never know how much time we have with certain loved ones. So for me, this trip was filled with excitement, with joy, with a lot of memorable moments with my family. And for me, if you think about the priorities you have in life, I'll put God number 1, my wife number 2, kids number 3, my health number 4, and then maybe my business, my investments, all my other stuff. If you rank the things that matter most to you, you should also rank how much time you spend with each of them. If you're God, if your wife and your kids are ranked number 1, 2, and 3, then it's saying, hey, my calendar should reflect that. My finances should reflect that. It should be very evident to anyone without asking that that is my order of priorities. And so for me, this road trip absolutely encompassed all that. So my kids and I, we prayed every single morning. We did some Bible reading. We're definitely into devotion. And the entire time we're listening to Christian music. Christian music was playing the entire time. It kind of set the mood for what we were trying to do on this trip, which was to get closer to each other and get to God. And it kind of kept us in a mellowed, joyful state. So God was absolutely present the entire time. But the other thing is just we don't know how much of these memories we're going to be able to make with our family. So my encouragement to everybody, whether you're an investor or not, is to treasure the ones you love the most. Make spending time with them the priority. And trust me, you're not going to regret it. You will not regret spending more time with people you cherish. Building memories, building those excitement factors, building those bonding agents. Okay, so those are my top 8 takeaways from doing 8 states in 8 days. Have you done a similar trip like that with your family? Did I miss anything? Are you guys gonna get mad at me for knocking on Mississippi? If so, leave it in the comment section. I'll reply to each and every one of you. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I would definitely appreciate it if you did. If you have any ideas for future comments, please leave it in the comment section, and I'll see you next time.